Buckingham Palace is built to outlast storms. That is what it was designed for, to absorb panic without showing it, to turn chaos into choreography, to translate private strain into public composure. But every institution, no matter how old, has a breaking point where the machinery of tradition begins to sound like it's grinding. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough for attentive ears to hear it. A tightening schedule, a shortened appearance, a message delivered with unusual care. And in December 2025, the palace delivered a message that wasn't framed as surrender, but carried the unmistakable shape of one. Not a collapse, not an abdication, not a constitutional earthquake, a health statement carefully constructed, deliberately calm, saying the king's cancer treatment would be reduced in the year ahead and would move into what the palace described as a *** precautionary phase. *** on paper, it sounded hopeful, even reassuring. In reality, it was a rare glimpse behind the curtain because the crown does not speak about vulnerability unless it has to. And when it does, it speaks in code, compassion, duty, resilience, service. The language of stability, even when the topic is human fragility. The King's message aired as part of Stand Up to Cancer 2025, a joint campaign from Cancer Research UK and Channel 4, timed and staged for maximum public impact. The palace emphasized early diagnosis, screening, and public encouragement, while the King himself explained that effective intervention and adherence to doctors' orders had allowed his treatment schedule to be reduced. But what made the message hit like a tremor wasn't simply the content. It was what the message forced everyone to remember. A monarchy is not just a family. It is a command structure with a symbolic head. And when the head faces illness, the system begins quietly shifting weight onto others, sometimes long before the public can see it. The first layer of that shift is visible if you know where to look. The calendar. In February 2024, when Buckingham Palace announced that King Charles had been diagnosed with cancer, the palace also moved swiftly to activate continuity reassignments, duty redistribution, and readiness planning. According to The Guardian, the internal machinery of the palace moved into motion while emphasizing that the king would continue core constitutional tasks, even while stepping back from public-facing engagements. That continuity planning matters because the monarchy does not leave gaps. It cannot. The crown is a living institution that must appear unbroken, especially in a world where public trust is brittle and every silence becomes a rumor. So when the king's health becomes a subject of global attention, the real story is not only medical, it is strategic. Who steps forward, who becomes visible, who becomes the voice of reassurance, and who, behind closed doors, gets positioned as the next line of stability. In this system, the key word is delegation, and in Britain, delegation has a legal framework. The modern monarchy has mechanisms for temporary coverage when the sovereign is unwell or unavailable, including the system of councillors of state, who can carry out certain royal functions under delegated authority. Parliament even updated this pool in recent years. The ** Councillors of State Act 2022 added Princess Anne ** and Prince Edward to those eligible to be called upon, a move framed publicly as ensuring continuity of public business. And beyond temporary delegation, there is the heavier, rarely invoked concept of a regency. The Regency Act 1937 contains provisions for the performance of royal functions by a regent if the sovereign is declared incapable of performing those functions due to infirmity of mind or body, based on evidence including physicians. This is constitutional disaster planning written into law, an emergency hatch that exists precisely because the crown must never look improvised. This is why health updates from the palace are never just health updates. They are reassurance to citizens, yes, but they are also signals to Parliament, to the Commonwealth, to allies, to markets, to the diplomatic ecosystem that treats the monarchy as part of Britain's national operating system. And in late December 2025, the country saw what reassurance looks like in motion. On Christmas Day, King Charles delivered his annual message from Westminster Abbey and urged kindness, unity, and reconciliation, words shaped for a world that feels increasingly fractured. The Associated Press noted that the speech carried a personal note in light of the king's ongoing cancer treatment, moving into a precautionary phase, and highlighted the broader tone of compassion amid global conflict. Then, almost immediately after, the optics reinforced the message. The royal family appeared publicly together at Sandringham for the traditional Christmas walk, an image of continuity that quietly answers the question the public won't stop asking. Asterisk, is he still present? Is the monarchy still intact? Asterisk, this is how modern monarchy manages crisis, through controlled visibility. Appearances that are real, but also symbolic. A public posture designed to calm the national bloodstream. And yet here's the darker truth of the information age. Every act of control produces its own shadows. When the palace releases measured updates, the internet does what it always does. It fills the gaps with speculation. Online, every pause in speech becomes diagnosis by crowd. Every camera angle becomes evidence. Every change in schedule becomes conspiracy. And in that frenzy, narratives form, some sincere, some malicious, some engineered purely for attention. So let's draw a hard line, because responsible investigation requires it. There is verified reality, and there is the rumor economy. Verified reality is this: the king disclosed cancer in early 2024 and has repeatedly used his platform to promote early detection, including his December 12, 2025 message about reduced treatment and screening awareness. The rumor economy is everything else: the claims of secret diagnoses, hidden collapses, or private palace warfare presented as certainty. These stories spread because the monarchy's greatest defense, silence, also creates the perfect environment for myth. But even myth can reveal something true about power. It reveals what people fear, and what they suspect institutions are capable of doing to protect themselves, and the British monarchy is capable of immense protection, not because it is sinister, but because it is trained. It is built for continuity. It has survived wars, abdications, scandals, and the collapse of empires. Its instincts are always the same: hold the line, preserve the image, prevent panic, keep the state's symbolic head upright. That instinct can be noble. It can also become suffocating, especially for the people living inside it. Because when an institution prioritizes continuity, the burden falls on the few who must carry the weight publicly while the center is shielded. And in modern royal life, that usually means the working core, the Queen, the Prince of Wales, and veterans like princes and figures who represent stability not because they are glamorous, but because they are relentless. This is why the world watches Prince William differently now. Not merely as a popular royal, but as a constitutional contingency. The person who must be ready quietly, professionally, to stand in the gap if the moment demands it. And it is why Princess Anne matters in this era. She is not the future face of the crown, but she is one of its most trusted, load-bearing beams. A figure pulled into the formal pool of continuity precisely because the monarchy wants fewer unknowns in an emergency. So when viewers sense a shift, when they feel that the palace tone has sharpened, that statements have become more deliberate, that appearances have been curated with extra care, they are not imagining the pressure. They are sensing an institution doing what institutions do when the ground beneath them becomes uncertain: tightening procedure, tightening message, discipline, tightening the perimeter. When an institution has survived for 1,000 years, it learns a brutal lesson. The public does not fear collapse until it sees uncertainty. And uncertainty is contagious. It spreads through markets, through allies, through the national mood. So Buckingham Palace does what any high-security command structure does when it senses instability. It activates the backup system while insisting outwardly that nothing is changing. In mid-December 2025, that backup system moved into view not with trumpets, but with language. A message from the king, recorded for Stand Up to Cancer 2025, carried a line that sounded warm and reassuring, yet quietly seismic. His schedule of cancer treatment would be reduced in the new year, and doctors advised that ongoing measures were entering what the palace described as a *** precautionary phase. ***, the palace framed it as progress, hope, evidence of modern medicine. And it was those things. But in monarchy, hope is never just hope, it is also risk management. Because the moment health becomes a public topic, succession becomes a private calculation. And the moment succession becomes a private calculation, every other relationship inside the palace is forced to reposition. The king's message wasn't released randomly. According to the royal family's official site, it aired as part of Channel 4's flagship Stand Up to Cancer night of programming at 8 p.m., placed right before a live broadcast from a cancer clinic at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge. The campaign itself ran as a week-long effort launched on December 5th, and it introduced a national screening checker to an online gateway meant to push citizens toward breast, bowel, and cervical screening eligibility. That matters because the monarchy's public messages are never just statements. They are deployments. They are timed. They are staged. They are placed in the schedule the way militaries place a press briefing. At the moment, it can absorb pressure and minimize vulnerability. ITV News reported the King's Stand Up to Cancer message had been filmed in the last week of November. Inside Clarence House's morning room, a detail that sounds harmless until you understand what it implies. Even the spontaneous reassurance was pre-planned, pre-positioned, and controlled. And once you notice that, you start seeing the larger pattern, because in late 2025, the monarchy was not managing one health narrative, but two. Catherine, Princess of Wales, publicly announced on January 14, 2025 that her cancer was in remission. After completing treatment the year prior, an announcement widely reported across major outlets that dual reality king and future queen in the same era, both forced to navigate illness in public, put the palace into a particularly sensitive posture. The institution can withstand scandal. It can withstand criticism. But it cannot withstand the perception that the line of continuity is unstable. So the palace reinforces continuity the only way it knows how. Visibility. Duty, ritual. On November 12, 2025, Queen Camilla hosted a reception celebrating the Booker Prize and the newly announced Children's Booker Prize. The palace highlighted her long-standing literacy patronage and her role in supporting the prize since 2012. Soft power in its purest form: literature, education, culture, and a carefully polished sense of national steadiness. 2 days later, on November 14, 2025, the King and Queen carried out a full day of engagements in South Wales to mark his 77th birthday, including a community reception at Cyfarthfa Castle and the opening of the South Wales Metro Depot and Taftswell event that communicated investment, modern infrastructure, and national cohesion. None of this is accidental. It's how the Crown says we are functioning. But here is the part most viewers miss. The Crown's most powerful reassurance is not what it says on camera, is what it keeps ready off camera, because Britain has legal mechanisms for what happens when the sovereign is alive, but cannot fully carry the operational load. There are two major layers of that mechanism: delegation and regency. Delegation is the modern, low-drama option. It is what institutions do before they admit they are in danger. And in the UK constitutional framework, one of the key structures for delegation is the system of councillors of state, senior royals who can be authorized to perform certain royal functions on the sovereign's behalf. That pool was formally strengthened in recent years. The Councillors of State Act 2022 explicitly added Princess Anne and Prince Edward to the persons to whom royal functions may be delegated. This wasn't gossip. It was legislation. A calm act of Parliament designed to ensure that if pressure rises, there are enough trusted hands on the wheel. Regency is the heavier weapon, rare, historically loaded, and politically combustible. It's not a rumor. It's law. The Regency Act 1937 lays out the trigger conditions for a regent to perform royal functions if the sovereign is deemed incapable by reason of infirmity of mind or body, based on evidence that includes physicians, and declared in writing by a defined group of senior constitutional officers. That is the backup system in its most serious form. An emergency protocol designed for the moment when the public facade can no longer carry the weight. Now, Here's where the story becomes psychologically dangerous, because this is where the rumor economy tries to hijack. Real constitutional machinery. Online, whenever there is a health update, there is an immediate secondary explosion, anonymous threads, stitched together clips, speculative diagnoses, claims of cover-ups, claims of secret meetings, claims of internal warfare. Most of it is unverified. Much of it is engineered for clicks. Some of it is outright fabrication, but the reason it spreads is not only because people are cruel. It spreads because people understand instinctively that the monarchy is a system built on withholding. And when a system built on withholding admits anything, audiences assume there is more behind it. That's why the palace's precise phrasing, precautionary phase, reduced schedule is so carefully chosen. It offers reassurance without opening doors to uncontrolled speculation, and yet speculation still rises. Because speculation is the tax paid in an era of distrust, here is what we can say cleanly and responsibly. We have confirmed public evidence that King Charles' treatment is being reduced, and that the palace has described a precautionary phase. We have confirmed public evidence that the king continued high-profile duties, including delivering his Christmas message from Westminster Abbey while acknowledging the personal context of his health journey. We have confirmed constitutional frameworks, councillors of state and the Regency Acts that exist, specifically to prevent chaos if the sovereign becomes less available. Everything beyond that, claims of hidden diagnoses, palace wars, forced disclosures, or alleged private confrontations presented as certainty must be treated as what it usually is, narrative warfare, not verified reporting. But even that warfare tells us something important. The palace is now operating in the same information battlespace as modern governments in crisis. The monarchy can no longer rely on discretion alone, because discretion creates vacuums and vacuums get filled. So the palace counteracts with choreography, public engagements, curated messaging, carefully staged campaigns like Stand Up to Cancer, and the relentless projection of calm. And that brings us back to the question that hangs over this entire moment like fog over the Thames. If the backup system is active quietly, legally, procedurally, then who is being positioned to carry the weight first?